Hey guys, it's Danielle. Welcome to the kitchen. It's Monday afternoon and we're back in the rat race. It's always nice to have a weekend, but it's nice to start our schedule again as well. But with that becomes the busy days and things to look forward to for the rest of the week. What we're going to prepare today is we're going to take a twist on the traditional mac and cheese. And now I'm not talking about the Kraft dinner mac and cheese, which we all know from our childhood. I'm talking about the homemade version of just mac and cheese. It can be very heavy. It can be very calorie loaded. We're going to take it and we're going to lighten it up a little bit and we're going to add some extra nutrients to it. Still going to be simple, still going to be easy, still going to be done in like 30 minutes or less. But we're going to take it and we're just going to give it that much more bonus for you and your family so that you can enjoy it that much more. And then it becomes a recipe that you may cook over and over and over again. And now you've got something nice and healthy with a traditional touch to it right in your kitchen. So I've got everything laid out in front of me here. I'm going to go over everything that we have. I've got about 4 cups of pasta. Now you can use elbow macaroni. You can use whatever you want. I had these little rotini things, so we're going to use that. I always have salt and pepper, always ready to go. It's always in addition to every meal. I have just under a cup of minced onions. Depends on how much you like your onions, but I like onions. I think it adds a lot of flavor to food, so I have just under a cup here. You don't want to go any less than a quarter of a cup. That would be your most lowest. I have 2 cups of milk. We have 2% milk, but you can use skim if you really want to lighten the load. I have 1 cup of chicken broth. But I also have a little bit of extra chicken broth because I think we're going to need a little bit more with the way we're going to bake the pasta. So I have some on reserve. I have 2 cloves of garlic. I have 1.5 tablespoons of butter. I have just under 3 cups of chicken. So today I have chicken tenders, which you can see my stone here in the background. I just baked these up before we got started. If you have leftover chicken in your fridge, that would be awesome to use. You can use that as well. But today we're going to use the chicken tenders. I think the breading is going to add a nice flavor to the meal. But if you really want to take it back and lighten it up just that much more, use a chicken breast without the breading on it, right? I have about 2.5 cups of broccoli that I used my chopper on, so I got them really, really nice and small. This way my kids can't pick them out of the meals. Depends on which way you want to go with your meal that day. Some days I leave it so that they can pick it out. Other days I leave it so that they can't. It's a balance. Give and take. I have, my cheese is starting to melt. I have some sharp cheddar cheese here. It's white cheddar. I'm going to move it over here because my oven is preheating and so it's going to heat up a bunch of these bowls. The bowls are safe, but the cheese is not. And then I also have a cup of panko that I just mixed in with a tablespoon of olive oil. We're going to put that on top when we bake it. It's going to come out really nice and great. So we're going to take our mac and cheese and we're going to add chicken and broccoli to it. That's basically what it is. So we're going to turn this into like a mac and cheese casserole, if you will. It's not going to be solely a mac and cheese, but it's going to have that traditional flavor to it. And then we're going to throw in some broccoli and chicken just to add a little bit of flavor to it. So first things first, we're going to get started with heating up the rock crock here, which I probably should have done before I started. We are going to use our rock crock again. This is one of my favorite tools for the kitchen because it is part of our Stomer family, so you're cooking on a natural product, as well as it goes everywhere in your kitchen. It goes into all of your appliances except your washer and dryer. I mean, how great is that? You've got your dishwasher, you've got your microwave, you've got your oven, your stovetop. It can even go on your barbecue. It's one fantastic, very versatile tool that we use all the time. If you've watched many of my videos in the past, you see that we use this tool non-stop. It is a staple in my kitchen, and I can make it a staple in your kitchen if you'd like. Just make sure you contact me below and we can get that going. February is a great month to do that. You can get them at 60% off. It's a fantastic way to do it, so don't hesitate. Don't wait too long. I'm going to get this heating up. It's starting to heat up now. With a stone, it does take a little bit longer than a traditional metal pan to heat up, but once it does heat up, it holds the heat a lot longer than a traditional metal pan. So it cooks slightly different. But when you're just sauteing before you get started, it's a great option to have. And what I like specifically in my situation today, our dishwasher has decided that it is no longer going to be part of our family. So it has left us. So I really enjoy having a meal that I can put in one pot. So when I have to wash the dishes, which I just dread, to me that is the one chore that I can't stand doing. I'd rather do laundry or anything else. I do not like washing dishes. I don't know why. So this is one of those things where I'm going to be able to do everything in one pot and then just have one pot to clean afterwards. So another benefit. So I'm not sure how well you can see. You can see a bit of it. You can see the butter melting in here. We're going to try to get that all completely melted. And then we're going to start with our onions. Once that gets going good here. All right, let's get started with our onions. We're going to let these get in here quite nicely. So what we're going to start out with here is we're going to get our onions cooking. We're going to put our garlic in. We're basically going to make the cheese sauce first. And then we're going to add in everything else and throw it in our oven. We'll be able to walk away for about 25 minutes to a half an hour. And when we come back, our dinner will be ready to serve. That's how nice and easy it is. That's what we like about these one-pot meals. Everything goes into one. You don't need to have a lot of stuff in front of you or around you, all kinds of other pots going at the same time and trying to figure out how to time everything together. When you do it all in one pot, when you've planned it all out ahead of time, which is leading into meal planning, where I'll get to in a second, it makes life a lot easier. The stress is off of you. I mean, how often have you come home from work, been racing around, know you have to meet another deadline as soon as you get home, and realize, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm having for dinner. What are we going to do for dinner? Oh, let me just think of something really quick. And then you resort to something that you might not normally choose. Maybe it's a less healthier option. Maybe it's a takeout option. Maybe it's something that you wouldn't necessarily want to choose, but you're going to do for convenience purposes because you need to get past this obstacle. So meal planning is something that everybody needs to do. It takes a load off of everybody. There's a lot of really nifty tools out there for everyone to use, but the fear in everyone's mind is that it takes a lot of time to do. When in actuality, it's just it's a habit forming adjustment, really. It doesn't take that much. If you can sit down with a pen and a paper and write out 5 meals, doesn't matter if they're breakfast meals or lunch meals. I would try to stick with the same, whether they're all breakfast or all lunch or all dinner, to start. That would be my recommendation. You write out those 5 meals that you like. 5 of them that you and your kids would use or typically make in a week, and just write those down on a piece of paper. Right? On that same piece of paper, right next to those meals that you've written down, I want you to write down the ingredients you would put in each one of those 5 meals. So let's say for argument's sake, one meal is chicken tenders and french fries, homemade potato fries or something. So you would write down your chicken, your breading, your egg, anything you put in your breading, whether it's Parmesan cheese, parsley, what have you, anything along those lines. You're going to throw that in there. You're going to make that list right next to your item, right there, the list of ingredients that you're going to put on there, your potatoes, whatever. And then you're going to take that list and you're going to shop your pantry and your refrigerator first. How many of those items are already in your refrigerator and your pantry? You're going to cross those ones off. So you've already got potatoes. Cool, great. Fantastic. We have potatoes. We don't need to add potatoes to our list. Or we don't need to shop for potatoes that week. Basically, you run that down your whole list, and everything you've crossed off is off your list, but everything that is not crossed off is your grocery list. Now, when you're starting out, you're only doing 5 meals. So don't forget, you do eat other times throughout the day, and you're going to need to shop for those other items as well. But to get you started, you start with 5 meals. Very simple, very basic, very initial. And as you get used to it, you add a meal. You add your weekends, you add a different time of day, whether it's a breakfast or a lunch. Before you know it, you've got your entire week planned out in front of you, and it took you 10 seconds. You sit down for a few more minutes, you maybe plan out a whole month, right? And you break it down into your weeks, and then so every Sunday you've got your rotation, whether it's week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, you've got your grocery list. You did them 2 months ago, and they're the same lists week after week. Now, can you veer from that? Of course you can. Can you do something different? Can you adjust? Of course, you always can. But it gives you something to start your setup on, and it'll save you time. It'll save you money. It'll save you stress. Stress is the most important, right? It's one thing to keep in mind. So what we've done here is you saw me saute the onions while we were chatting. I threw in the 2 cloves of garlic, and I also added a 1/4 cup of flour. Okay, I'm using whole wheat flour today, but you can use white flour or whatever flour you like. And you're going to just saute them until the flour starts to brown, and ours has started to brown. And then we're going to slowly put in the milk. And all we're going to do is we're going to whisk in the milk. Now, because I'm using a coated cookware, I am using a nylon. I'm actually using our mashed potato, what we use to make mashed potatoes. It's a fantastic little tool for mashing, but I find it's also a great coated whisk. I don't have a whisk that is nylon coated. I just haven't quite acquired one at this point in time. So in the meantime, I use something that's already in my kitchen, and basically I'm dual purposing another tool, which I think is the best way to do it. The tools that you have in your kitchen should be the ones you use the most, the ones that you can find multi-purpose to. If you are a baker or you do something unique and require a specific tool for a specific project, obviously, but the least amount of tools we have in our kitchen, the more organized we are, the easier it is to use them all. You'll find this, everybody knows this, decluttering, and it helps you see things better, helps you use things better, takes away a little bit of the overwhelmingness that is associated when you have too many things, right? It's kind of like that old saying, analysis by paralysis. When you've got so many things in front of you, it's hard to see what's really there. If you can eliminate a lot of unnecessary things in your kitchen and just use the ones you're going to use the most, you will find that you'll have a much better and more fun time in your kitchen. You'll be more organized, you'll know where things are, ideas will flow easier, everything's easier when you're organized. So all we're going to do here is we're going to let this come up to a boil, which should take a couple of minutes, and then we're like almost done. And we've been on camera, and I've kind of been babbling for a long time today, so we've been on camera for maybe a couple minutes, and you're going to be ready to go. We're going to dump everything else in, and we're going to throw it right into the oven. Super quick and super simple. You can see that it's starting to steam up already, and you'll see as it gets closer to the boiling point that it will thicken up. So this is your sauce that you're making. It's the flour and the butter combination mixed in with the milk. Excuse me, and we're going to add some chicken broth soon. But this is what it all thickens up. It becomes your sauce. So I'm just going to throw in a little bit of the chicken broth. Now, if you really want to give this a head start, you could warm up your chicken broth. Ours is going in a little bit cold, and I'm just going to continue to stir. And then while that's going to keep going, I'm going, oh, look, we've got some extra bits here that I left on my other spatula. Oh, even some more there. Let's see if those will. And the reason you pour your milk in super slow when you start pouring your milk into the flour is if you pour it in all at once, your flour is going to get really lumpy and clumpy, and it's not going to be a nice sauce. You pour it in slowly, little bits at a time, and you mix it all up so that it comes into an even distribution, and it makes a really nice sauce. So we've got it fairly evenly distributed in here. You can see the onion chunks. I'm going to keep stirring that, but I'm going to also add some salt and pepper at the moment, because we always like salt and pepper with our meals. This is a great meal for a busy night or a cold winter night like it is tonight. Actually, it's starting to warm up, but we'll kind of catch the tail end of the coldness here. I went a little light on the salt. Always whenever I have chicken broth going into my food, I go a little bit lighter on the salt because there's already salt and a lot of sodium in the chicken broth, so we don't need to add as much. Pepper is always a nice additive, and that's always by personal taste, right? Every time you add salt and pepper, it's to your personal taste. You need to watch your dietary restrictions, of course, on there, but it's still always a nice thing to add in and go from there. So we're just giving this a quick stir. We're letting it come to a boil. In fact, maybe I'll give it a cover for a couple seconds just to help make it go faster. You got to watch it when you put the cover on anything that's ready to boil, because it will come up and boil over on you, and you don't want that to happen. That won't be very good. So what we've got here is we've got our broccoli. It's ready to go. I'm just going to show you, you've seen me leave things in larger chunks in the past for my kids who I know they won't like them. Today I'm not giving them that option. Today I'm going to make them eat the broccoli, so I'm going to chop it up into really small bits, and I just wanted to show you how nice and easy it is to do that with a chopper. We did this with a chopper, we did the onions with a chopper, they're already in here. I did this with a knife, and the panko was already set up. So this was, the chopper was the onions and the broccoli, and so I'm just going to go a couple times like this, And you can see how there's still a couple of chunks in there, but some of it is really, really tiny. The more you pound down, the smaller the bits can be. So if you wanted to keep them slightly larger, you would only chop a couple of times. If you want them really small, then you chop a few more times. It's a really nice tool. A lot of people, when they first use a chopper, they go like this, and they can't figure out why it's not cutting. You need to give it some energy. You need to pound it down. You need to hear the blade hit the cutting board. That's how you're cutting through your food. That's when you know you've cut through your food. Okay, let's check this a little bit here. We don't want to go too long. I can feel it starting to adhere to the bottom a little bit, and it's starting to thicken up, which is exactly what we need. It's perfect. Just about the moment of truth here, where we're going to throw everything in. I'm going to give it one more minute. We're going to collect our broccoli. Actually, I'm going to bring our bowl over here because I am not a neat person. My cooking has never been what I would call neat cooking. There's always a mess in the kitchen after I'm done, so I know to limit the mess into certain areas so that it's easier to clean up in the end. If you start spreading out everywhere, then you look at it in the end and you're like, oh my God, what a disaster. If I limit it to a cutting board, I put everything around that cutting board, I keep it all there, then it's all central, it's focused, and it's a quick and easy tidy up. So I'll tidy up while this is sitting in the oven for 25 minutes and still have some time to run and do some other things in the house, whether it's change over the laundry, whether it's make a couple phone calls you need to make, whatever it is you need to do, you're good and you can go. So I think I'm going to let this go now. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the cheese. But I'm going to reserve a little bit of the cheese to add to the end. So I'm going to throw in the cheese right now. And the cheese is just going to melt. So all we want it to do in there is we want it to melt. So I left about this much left over just to add to the top. We're going to stir this until it's melted, which should take no time at all because it is nice and warm. And then I'm going to start adding things. Okay, so here comes my pasta. Again, whenever you're baking pasta, you want to make sure your pasta sits below the line of liquid. That way it doesn't get dried out too much. Although I have had many instances in the past where pasta has popped up above where it appears it's going to be dry and hard and it isn't. So you don't have to stress too much about it. But it is something that I always just, making more of a mess, I always recommend. Now this is going to be hot so you can't grab at it. I'm going to shut this down now. So all I'm going to do here is I'm stirring in the chicken and the broccoli into the cheese sauce. You can vary your cheese sauce with whatever cheese you like to use. If you like to get some Gruyere cheese going, some Fontina cheese going, you can mix it in here with the cheddar. You can get as rich or as not so rich as you like with the cheese. We're lightening the load today, so we kept it just as cheddar. So now we've got that all nicely stirred up and everything's in there ready to go. I'm going to flatten the top a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to start adding my breadcrumbs. Actually, let me just, you know what I'm going to do? Because I added a little bit of extra pasta, I'm going to throw a half a cup more of chicken broth in here, just to make sure the pasta has enough to do. So I'm adding 1/2 cup of chicken broth. That's it. So I'm going to stir that in. It will thicken with the sauce as it bakes. There we go. So now the panko, I'm just going to spread that across the top. Don't even need, well, there's just a touch left. Okay, and then I'm going to add the cheese to the top of that. Just going to sprinkle that in. This is going to bake really, really nice. Now you can bake with the lid on or the lid off. If you want it to brown, you take the lid off. If you want the lid on, if you don't care about the browning, you can leave the lid on. It won't make a difference to your cook time at all. It'll just make a difference to your appearance time. I'm going to leave the lid off. You're going to need your oven mitts, and we're off to the races. So there's our comfort food for today. nice baked mac and cheese taken from a traditional food, brought up with some chicken and some broccoli, and you can take that to the table. The kids will love it because it's got a cheesy mixture to it, but what they won't know is when you've got the broccoli chopped up as small as it is and the chicken in there too, they've got a nice healthy alternative to a normal mac and cheese. So you've got something to give them some fuel, some energy to go forward for the night, and it's not out of a box with nothing else added to it. You could also take your box macaroni and cheese and you could add a whole bunch of stuff to it, which is perfectly fantastic, the same way we're doing here. It all depends on how you want to do it, as long as you're adding to it. Add some protein, add some vegetables, add some things into that dish so that they've got something that carries them forward throughout the day, not just the pasta and the sauce. So that's our meal for today. I hope you enjoy it. Repeat it in your kitchen. Let me know if there's anything I can do or have any questions regarding anything you try, and we'll go from there. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.